Buongiorno! Today is day 1 of the Festival of Books. My 4th time attending. I am so excited. Not a lot happening today. Today I'm gonna go to Tahereh Mafi's panel and Veronica Roth is also gonna be on that, and then I'm finally getting all of my copies of Tahereh Mafi signed by Tahereh Mafi afterwards. It's gonna be my 2nd time meeting Tahereh Mafi. I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. And then tomorrow, day 2 of the Festival of Books, I have a bunch of panels that I'm super excited about going to. I already bought tickets to go see Le Bardugo. That's gonna be fun.
It's been almost 10 years, you guys. Like, this is the 5th book in the Tahereh Mafi series. I took a couple of years off in between. I've actually been reflecting on this because I wrote the first book, not when it was published, but I wrote the first book when I was 22. And next year it'll be 10 years since I wrote that book, so I'm feeling very, like, emotional about the whole thing. I just kissed the mic. Yeah, you know, after when I decided to return to the series, I went back through and reread the first 3 books and made like a really, really intense story Bible for myself, like literally like pulling quotes, like making charts, and like this character said this at this point, then their like development happened at this point, and then they said this thing that was, you know, so it's just to make sure that I'd like mapped all of it out, because I needed to be able to, I couldn't hold all that information in my head, so I was even like, in the beginning he'd be like, reading your own book again? Like, I'm not obsessed with myself, I swear. I just need to be able to keep all of this information current, and it's the only way I can like maintain their voices and keep the whole thing feeling fresh and not like it's been a decade. Like, it has to feel like the whole series takes place over the course of several months. So everything has to happen like really, 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 it needs to still feel fresh and current. So it actually is harder than I thought it would be, but also not as hard as I thought it would be. But I don't sleep. I pretty much, actually, I had 4 books come out in 2 years, and I also was pregnant and then had a baby during that time period. And I don't know what I was thinking. But they say when you want to get something done, ask a busy person. And I think that's what happened. I just was like,
from the ones that I was read as a child and the ones that were in my library. So it was all Snow White and Cinderella. And I never looked like any of the girls in those fairy tales. So I wanted to create a new fairy tale and create mythology in the way that fairy tales create mythologies and have cautionary tales.
More organized than the other people on the board, but that does not mean that I am an organized person. It just means that among writers I am, you know, relatively organized, which is like not a high standard. So no, I don't apply this skill set to writing books, although it is a nice, it's a nice way to like get a break from writing books. I've tried to become more methodical as I've gone on. So with the Divergent series, I knew how it ended, but I didn't know exactly how I was going to get there, and I didn't know all of the world-building machinations that were going to get there, which resulted in this big unloading of information in the 3rd book, like in the first 100 pages.
So for the Bella series, I wanted to research the history of beauty and the history of beauty products and the beauty industry and how it came to be and what cultures sort of dominated them, and how that all sort of mingled together. And so the fun thing was to find out sort of what people were using that actually made them sick. So people using certain powders full of arsenic or lye, and not realizing that the things that they were trying to put on their bodies to make them beautiful was actually making them super sick. And there was one trend where people would put these little patches when they had like pock marks from like the plague, in the shape of stars or moons. And I just thought it was interesting and fascinating that everyone was so obsessed with showing their status and showing their importance by putting things on their body or adorning themselves in certain ways. And I was fascinated that we're still doing this, and we've been doing it for hundreds of years as a way to create a hierarchy. And it doesn't matter what culture you are in, the hierarchy exists, and it's just organized in very interesting ways. So have rodents in their hair accidentally during Marie Antoinette's court because they would have such big hair towers and they wouldn't be washing them that there would literally be mice living in those big towers.
Wait, you know those like the big ruffles everybody used to wear? That was because they all had lice.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
It's like to like catch the lice or
Mhm.
something.
People are
I was like,
filthy.
I love those little ruffles, and they were like, "You want to know something interesting?"
We ruined them for you.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
I like can't look at an ascot the same way.
You can't.
It's not exactly.
That's going to be the most lingering memory from this whole thing.
Animals that are the size of teacups, and you can put them in your hair. So I took the idea of the mice, and I was like, let's just put a sloth or a panda in the hair instead. They're cuter.
Yeah.
Right? A little, like this big. Yeah, versus a mouse. I live in New York City, I see enough of them. Fievel is not my friend. I love Fievel, American Tail. It's a great story. But not in my house.
Are stacked spine against spine. That was the gravestones. And I wandered. There was this one grave marker that caught my eye more than any other, because I noticed there were two things on it different than the rest. And so it had dad and mom, it was the Goldberg family, and dad and mom killed in 1944, and then it listed the children, youngest to oldest, and the two youngest sons killed in 1944, and the daughter Sala killed in 1944, and then the oldest son, Rafal, who died in 1986. And I thought, why? Why this whole family? Why was this oldest son, the only one to survive? And then I saw the second thing about it, this grave marker that was different. He was the only one there listed with two names. So Rafal Goldberg, his Jewish name that he was born with, and then below it, Eugenis Kazmierzyk, the Polish name that he adopted when the Nazis came in. This man was able to pass himself off as a Polish Christian. It's the one reason he survived the war, and once I had that little bit of information, I went down that rabbit hole. I had to know more.
Let's step outside of and view the Shatter Me world from a different angle.
Sort of. I don't know if I relished it, but it was sort of, it was fun. Juliet's headspace can be very depressing. So it was really fun to leave that chaos for a little bit and try out some of the other characters' voices. Really interesting. One of the things I did that helped me stay in their voices at all times was I would write the book and then edit the book only in their voices. So like I would pick one character's headspace to remain in, and it's so interesting hearing you speak about like coming to the story, coming to writing with a theater background. I never really thought about that. I have no theater background, but like I also think about them as like, characters whose headspaces I have to
live in.
Yeah, that I live in. Yeah, and so I try to keep them in my head as much as I possibly can. So that consistency and editing only in one voice at a time has always helped me.
Which you would go through just one person's voice, edit it all the way, and then go back to the beginning and do the next person's.
Yeah.
Pro tip. Add plot and sort of like kissy scenes and sort of dialogue, and I'm not so great at those. I'm character world building, and so in the books that we co-author, I do the things I'm good at and let her do the other stuff. But I was by myself with Bells, and so I was like, oh, kissy pothole, and I would leave it and come back at the end. And then I talked to her and I was like, what do I do with this love story? You can't fix it, like I'm on my own, what am I gonna do? And then she was like, just do this. So like any of the love stuff, blame her. She's the one who told me what to do for the love stories that happen in the book. She's like, do this. It's just not my strong suit.
Kissy pothole is like my new.
Yeah.
I'm getting t-shirts made.
Yeah, and it's in all of my drafts, and then my editor will be like, can you just fill this in? Like, this has been in 2 drafts, kissy pothole. Because I leave it to the very end, because it's pulling teeth. That tension, right? You have to create the tension of the kiss. And I'm just like, ugh. And I write hate to love, so I'm like, it just takes a lot out of me to do that.
Really terrible lighting, but anyways, I'm at my grandparents' house and the festival of books is over. The very first day. I got all of my copies of Shatter Me signed with Tahereh Mafi. It was so nerve-wracking meeting her again, but I barely managed to say anything to her. Oh my god, we were matching. I was wearing light pink, she was wearing light pink. I wish we could have gotten there earlier at the Festival of Books. We got there so late. We arrived there at 4 and the panel was at 4:30. So literally all I had time to do was go to the panel and meet Tahereh Mafi. We walked through the YA section, which is how we to get to the panel, and oh my god, they broke down the YA stage. They replaced it with a smaller stage and using it for cooking. So now the YA section of the Festival of Books is no longer the YA section. It's the YA and cooking section, and I am so pissed. The YA stage is now this tiny little tent with like a few rows of chairs. Literally just says the YA stage. How dare they? If you've seen my Festival of Books vlogs in the past, the YA stage is so cool. It's like this huge stage, and in the back it says YA stage, and then it's all outside, and usually there's like a lot of panels there. You know, I thought it was weird that this year there were such few panels at the YA stage. And that's why, because they broke down the YA stage and replaced it with this tiny tent. I'm so pissed. How dare they do that? The YA section is in the back of the USC. It's not the most important section, but I still really liked it. The very little of YA they had, and then they had to ruin it. Why? I'm so mad. I really hope they fix this mess next year, because how dare they replace the beautiful YA stage with this tiny little cooking stage and turn it into a tent with like 5 rows, and there's this tiny tent like all the way crossed off to the side. Oh yeah, but there was like so few booths too. Like usually there's like so many booths from like YA publishers that come for, like 2 years ago when I came to the Festival of Books, Penguin Teen had a booth, HarperCollins had a booth. So many of YA publishing companies had a booth, and they even gave out ARCs a couple years ago. This year, all they had were bookstore booths. There was no YA booths at all. Basically, YA has disappeared from the Festival of Books, and I am so pissed off. Oh, funny thing about the panel though, I didn't even know Veronica Roth actually does the panel schedule for Y'all West and Y'all Fest, and the moderator for the panel, he was a librarian at the Santa Monica Public Library, which is Fierce Friday, the Friday event of Y'all West. But anyways, that's all for today. I'm not gonna hold up all the books I got signed because I got 6 books signed. Tahereh Mafi was amazing and signed all of them and personalized them, and I even got a picture of her. I mean, I already have a picture of her when I met her 2 years ago, but oh my god, I had to get a picture when we were like matching. Even though I only really got to do 2 things at the Festival of Books, it was a pretty good day. I'm mostly looking forward to tomorrow for all of panels. Leigh Bardugo tomorrow. I'm going to Leigh Bardugo's panel tomorrow. I'm so excited. My social media links are all down below. My Twitter, my Bookstagram, my Goodreads. Arrivederci!